I can protect. My question is actually comprised of several parts, and it touches on things that a lot of people brought up in here. And obviously, as a fairly recent graduate of the MISC program myself, it directly relates to these new competencies and also getting our applications in front of you. One of the issues that I'm finding is that a lot of the postings that are going up now are requesting things like 3 to 5 years of experience, and then they're going through what I call the electronic Cerberus of HR, where, not necessarily where I'm writing to, presumably, the selection committee, who is comprised at least in part of librarians. Perhaps I'm not phrasing my letters properly. So one of the questions that I have for you is, how would I go about the process of writing a letter that will make it through HR, but won't make you think that I don't have the necessary skill sets or requirements that are accessible? The other thing that I wanted to ask about is, I have a master's degree in philosophy, right? I did the traditional, I went through the military, did a master's degree, pretty much avoided all the electronic stuff and everything else. So I really am that sort of, I'm flexible, I'm adaptable, I can learn, but I don't have those baseline skill sets that are the new paradigm. So how can I do that as well? Basically, I need to be able to get in front of you. Once I get there, I'm good, I can sell myself. But how do I get there when now these new roadblocks are coming up? And you mentioned with Gerstein, the science background. Well, one of the things that they tell us all the time through here is, you're a librarian, you're an information professional. It's not about your background, it's about how you go about determining where the information is that you need, accessing it, and presenting it. So, there are these, I don't necessarily want to call them conflicts, but there are definitely some hurdles that have to be transcended, really. And I've been a library director, small library, but, even when I put that on as a military-based librarian, now I'm wondering, what am I coming across as to the people who are looking at my resume and saying, okay, well, this person's a little too specialized, whereas I consider it extremely flexible and adaptable. There was a lot, I know, I apologize.
Could I start off with that one? That HR portal business drives me crazy. And in fact, we had an HR meeting this morning because I do find that in HR they don't often recognize that the library is an academic service and that almost all the librarians are academic members of faculty. They think of us as an admin, they group us in with the admin thing. So there is a kind of a hiring, you have to go through that portal thing, but I know, because we just did a hiring, that quite a few people would write directly. But a couple of them would write to me that I don't chair. I mean, it just takes a bit of investigation, but if you look at the collective agreement, you'll see that I don't chair the hiring committee, and you can figure out who chairs the, in fact it tells you it's the associate librarian. So then once you know that, and you can check through the website and see, she gets emails from people all the time, and just very recently she actually had a meeting with someone who just, we've had it, and I'm sure we've all had it, where people say, I just need a few pointers, if you could, I'd love to have half an hour of your time. And those of us who've worked a lot in associations, we're willing to do that to help people in the profession. So the other thing I just wanted to say was network, and the TRI conference, which I think is a terrific thing that happens here with Toronto, Ryerson, and New York. There's a real opportunity to meet librarians from the different university libraries, and once you've met someone, then someone knows who you are and your name. I think that helps too, because the appointments committee is a large constituted committee with a lot of different librarians on there, and it's not hard if you do your research on the website to figure out who is on the current committee. And yeah, you don't want to be sort of like a paparazzi doorstepping somebody, but there are ways. I can tell you that one of our librarians is a boxing fanatic and runs a website, and there's another one who teaches immigrants how to ride bicycles. So they have other interests, and there's ways of meeting people through those other interests.
Could I just add a point, which is, and you do have, I think, a valid point, and I know this is something that we're actually looking at in terms of the qualifications that we require, and that that in sometimes I think we have asked, libraries have tended, because we're sort of conservative institutions or tend to be that way, we're looking for people with a lot of experience, and in fact, we're realizing now that, you know what, we need to make these positions open to newer graduates so that maybe they haven't worked in the library for a few years or have, you know, the 4 or 5 years experience. So I think it, you know, I think it's actually criticism that's a valid criticism of libraries that sometimes we're too sort of programmatic in our approach, and we don't create that opportunity. So I can tell you that we're actually talking about this at Hamilton right now and looking at what qualifications we have to open the door for people that haven't been in the profession.
And I would just add, I mean, we have that same process in terms of only accepting applications online. So, you know, sending, and although for all professional positions, I would be involved in those interviews, I am not the person who is developing the list of candidates for consideration. That is done through HR. But what I would like to say, when we are hiring librarian positions, we are not asking for 3 to 5 years experience, because we appreciate the fact that that is the starting level of a professional position. So we only in a more senior position would we have that amount of experience required. So we do appreciate when interviewing that many of the applicants that we will be considering are just graduating from school. We take that into consideration in the questions that we ask as well. So we anticipate that people will be drawing from their academic experiences and from volunteer and other library experience. So I think that's important for us from a hiring point of view, that we, you know, that we be mindful of where our applicants are coming from. But I would also echo it. I mean, I think that to make connections, if you're really interested in working for an organization, make the contact. We happily make arrangements for anyone interested in coming to visit our library system. We will connect you with a librarian if it is a particular subject area that you have an interest in, or a particular type of work, and we will make those arrangements so that you get a better idea of what we're about, because it is all about, you know, determining whether it is a right fit, and that opportunity to ask somebody in the job some of the questions that you've got. So, I mean, I'm sure that other organizations would be willing to do that as well.
Maybe if I could just add one practical piece of advice, which is that I know, you know, when you do your CV, you have all your experiences there, and I know I'm proud of different things I've done. And when you're writing that resume, I know at one point I pulled out some things, and even though I consider them important, I realized that the audience that's reviewing my resume may not share or see the connection. And so I think it doesn't hurt to, when you're doing that resume, you don't want to show a lot of gaps, but at the same time, if, you know, maybe there's things you might want to de-emphasize, you know, and then they can come up in the interview where, you know, as you say, you can sell yourself once you get face to face. So you might want to get a couple people to look at your CV and see if you're applying for this kind of job. Maybe you want to de-emphasize certain things, just because they could actually be distracting people from the other qualifications that you have. Just something worth considering.
Hi. I can't remember which one of you said about people who made a career change. And I thought, thank you. I've hired people in the past in the industry I used to be in. The cover letter courses is pretty important. And one thing I wound up being really sensitive to was people who would say, you know, although I've never done whatever before, I've got, you know, X skills. And basically, I guess it could happen with anyone here who's a fresh graduate, hasn't been in the workforce necessarily, although I haven't worked, you know, in the field and stuff like that. And I think the same issue can be if you're from a different industry. And like I said, you become sensitive to that when you're hiring somebody, because you're like, okay, how much of a learning curve are we talking here? Are they trying to sound apologetic? Are they just trying to be careful? I assume in some cases the answer is play up skills, the transferable skills you have, and everyone's talking about leadership as well, stuff like that. Are there any words to kind of watch out for that you shouldn't use in a cover letter, just so you might roll your eyes and go, no, not us?
I would say, I have to tell you, I'm really, and I don't discard them, but the resumes that say, this is my objective, I'm thinking, I don't really care. My objective is to hire the right person. So I mean, I wouldn't set that resume aside, but I think you're using up valuable real estate when you put things like that on a resume. So I think it's being really succinct, as Paul said, pulling out the pieces that specifically apply to that job that you're applying for, so making that leap for the employer. Resumes that I like are ones that literally do that. They looked at the job description, they said, okay, let me break down for you, the employer, what it is that I can do that matches this and where I did it. And those resumes are wonderful. And I mean, I'm just going through some right now for a position, and some of them are fantastic. They're like a page and a half, but they're bang on. And they're not a whole shopping list of everything they've ever done in their lives. They're just specific to that.
If I may add to that, that's something that Sheila and I were discussing just before this started. Believe me, I've been there. I know how hard it is when you're looking for a job and you don't have a lot of time. But please, please, please make the effort to tailor your application and your resume to the job you're applying for. We can read a mile off when it's something that's gone, to every branch of Walmart. And I just went through a hiring and I saw that, and somebody actually got the name of the position wrong. And a few years ago, when I was at St Mary's University, I got a very impassioned letter saying how much this person wanted to work at the University of Western Ontario. So there's so much you can give away about yourself without needing to. And the other side of that, I would say, is know yourself and express who you are. And don't be dishonest about that, because you get found out. So know what your own strengths are and play to those, and where you see that those strengths that you know you have, your own passions. I love to see people with passion and enthusiasm. And don't tell me you want this job because it's nearer where you live than your current job. Tell me because you
That's true.
Even if it's true. Say, I've read your strategic plan. This is exactly, I see I could really fit with this. I love where Ryerson's going. And just make those connections, because we want to feel good. We want to know that people want to work with us because they want to work with us, not because they need a paycheck. Even though I know you need a paycheck. That's why I ended up in records management for a disastrous year. But I learned from that what I never want to do again.
Just adding on to something that you mentioned before, when we were talking about the 3 to 5 years experience or whatnot. But when something does say 2 to 3 years, can we are we justified in saying that we work throughout our degree in relevant positions if that's approximately 2 years of experience, even though it's part-time?
Sure.
Yeah, we accept that.
Volunteering that's relevant too. I would include that.
Especially with OLA.
If I could just add, I agree, and yes, and just the point that was made about make sure you're honest, and that's critical. Be yourself, and so make sure you're not trying to spin a tail, but at the same time, you know what? Especially if you think it's a good fit for you, you should go after that job, and you never know what might happen.
But will HR see this as a...
I think different institutions do things differently. For instance, at U of T, usually if you're the chair of a search committee, you end up with all the applications. It's nobody is screening them. This is in the library, not necessarily in other faculties. But so that's, I would see all 41 of them if I happen to be the chair of the committee. There might be somebody else who's the chair of the committee. They would probably see them too. And then they'd either assign somebody to go through them and do the first pass to pull out the ones that really don't seem relevant. And then there'd be a more careful screening process.
More questions?
There's one thing I meant to say earlier and I forgot because I got carried away. But I did bring this. Association of Research Libraries, Core Competencies for the 21st Century Librarians, and it's really, really good, full of just exactly what we've all been talking about. And it's got a Creative Commons license. So if you go on the Canadian Association of Research Libraries website, you should be able to download it from there. It's CARL-ABIC